Super speed is undeniably strong, but at least it's a power that has been balanced well in various stories. Characters like Dash from The Incredibles, Kid Flash from Young Justice, and Ida from My Hero Academia all have clear limitations, whether it's needing time to accelerate, struggling with sharp turns, or having a limited stamina pool. Even in stories where speedsters are absurdly fast, writers introduce weaknesses like reaction time bottlenecks or vulnerabilities to certain attacks to keep them from becoming completely unbeatable. But telekinesis, that's a whole different beast. Even at lower levels, it has the potential to break almost any fight, and the only reason it doesn't dominate every story it appears in is that writers intentionally limit it, often in ways that make no sense. Take Star Wars, for example. The way Jedi struggle against normal people, or even droids, often feels ridiculous. Look at Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett. Obi-Wan, an elite Jedi master, could have ended the fight in an instant by simply lifting Jango into the air and immobilizing him. Instead, he engages in a physical brawl against a bounty hunter who, while skilled, shouldn't realistically stand a chance. Some argue that Jedi don't abuse their Force abilities, but that's simply not true. Obi-Wan does use telekinesis against General Grievous, force-pushing him and knocking him around. He's also seen yanking weapons away from enemies, hurling droids across rooms, and using the Force to choke opponents when necessary. The only reason Jedi don't use these abilities more effectively against non-Force users is because, let's be real, it would make every fight completely one-sided. If Jedi actually used their abilities efficiently, bounty hunters, droids, and most soldiers would be zero threat. This is why Star Wars Force user fights tend to be the most interesting, because their abilities cancel each other out. But whenever Force users go up against non-Force users, the story has to ignore telekinesis or make their opponents unnaturally resistant just to maintain tension. And it's not just Star Wars that does this. One of the biggest issues with telekinesis in fiction is that it's nearly impossible to balance. It's either so powerful that no one can fight back, or it's nerfed so hard that it becomes inconsistent and borderline useless. I remember watching a VS debate video where someone pointed out that Star Wars characters are difficult to match up against fighters from other universes because Force telekinesis is either too strong, making it impossible for their opponents to fight back, or their opponent has to be so ridiculously overpowered that the Force user doesn't stand a chance. And honestly, that's spot on. How do you fight someone who doesn't need to throw punches, swing a weapon, or even fire a projectile to hurt you? If all they have to do is raise a hand and instantly immobilize you, what counterplay even exists? The problem gets even worse when telekinesis is used by villains. Darth Vader could snap someone's neck before the fight even starts. He doesn't need to get close. He doesn't need to fight fair. If he were written with full efficiency, every battle would last about 3 seconds. This is why so many stories either heavily restrict telekinesis or make characters conveniently forget they have it whenever it would trivialize a fight. And again, it's not just Star Wars that does this. The worst offender of telekinesis use is supernatural. At least Star Wars tries to explain why telekinesis isn't always effective, requiring focus, emotional state, or situational awareness. But Supernatural, it's one of the worst offenders of inconsistent telekinesis logic. In the early seasons, telekinesis was actually well handled. Demons, witches, and psychics who had telekinetic abilities used them effectively, and it made sense within the story's framework. But as the show progressed, logic was completely thrown out the window. Instead of instantly snapping an enemy's neck or crushing their heart, characters with established telekinetic powers suddenly forget to use them whenever it would make a fight too easy. Villains will monologue, throw their target against a wall instead of just killing them, and stall long enough for some last-minute, plot-convenient counterattack to take them out. It happens constantly, and it's frustrating because telekinesis was once a well-integrated ability in the series, but the writers realized that if they actually let telekinetic characters fight at full potential, most battles wouldn't exist in the first place.